Jack Harmon stood at the window of the space station, watching Earth grow smaller in the distance. Even after 3 weeks aboard the Galactic Assembly's transport vessel, he still couldn't believe they had chosen him. "Professor Harmon, please follow me. The council is ready," said the blue-skinned aide who had been assigned to him. Jack straightened his suit jacket and followed the alien through the curved hallways. The station was massive, a spinning ring orbiting Saturn. Beings of all shapes and sizes moved past him, some floating, others crawling along special tracks on the walls. Jack tried not to stare. "Remember, speak only when directly addressed," the aide said. "The universal translators will handle your words, but try to speak slowly." Jack nodded. As a linguistics professor from a small college in Oregon, he should have been excited about the translation technology. Instead, he felt his stomach tighten with worry. The doors to the assembly chamber slid open. Inside, a vast room spread before him with concentric rings of seating. Representatives from 27 different worlds sat in their designated areas. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien that Jack couldn't tell which part might be their face. "The human representative," announced a voice from above. All eyes, and various sensory organs, turned toward Jack. He felt like a specimen under a microscope. The head of the assembly, a tall being with 6 arms and silvery skin, gestured to a small seat at the outermost ring. "You may observe from there," the being said. "I am High Counselor Erix of the Heptapods. Welcome to the Galactic Assembly." Jack took his seat, noticing it was much smaller than the others and positioned far from any control panels or voting interfaces. "Now," Erix continued, "let us resume our discussion of the Proxima trade routes." The assembly members began communicating, but Jack realized something strange. Their mouths didn't move. They stared at each other, occasionally making small gestures, but no sound came out. Yet somehow, they were clearly having a conversation. "They're telepathic," whispered the aide who had remained beside Jack. "All civilized species evolve beyond physical speech. The assembly members find it amusing that humans still communicate with sound waves." Jack watched in confusion. "Then why do they talk to me normally?" "They don't. The translation system converts their thoughts into speech for your benefit. It's like talking to a child who can't read yet." From across the chamber, a purple-skinned being with a ridge of spines along its head looked directly at Jack. Its mouth moved, apparently for Jack's benefit. "So this is the talking primate," it said, its voice dripping with contempt even through the translator. "I am Xorvak of the Zithrian Empire. Tell me, human, how does it feel to be the only species here still making mouth noises to communicate?" Several assembly members made strange movements that Jack realized must be their version of laughter. "We find our methods effective enough," Jack said carefully. "Effective for hunting and gathering, perhaps," Xorvak replied. "The assembly admitted Earth as a courtesy, human. You have no voting privileges. You are here to observe and learn from your betters." High Counselor Erix raised a hand. "That's enough, Ambassador. The human is permitted observer status as we decided. Now, regarding the trade routes." The discussion continued, but Jack barely listened. He noticed something odd. When he shifted in his seat or moved his hands, none of the aliens seemed to track the movement. When he scratched his nose, not a single alien glanced his way. After hours of being ignored, Jack began experimenting. He waved his fingers slightly. No reaction. He made a fist. Nothing. He spelled out ABC in sign language under the table. Not one alien noticed. A realization struck Jack. These telepathic species had evolved without needing the fine motor control that humans had developed. Their translator systems were programmed to convert speech, not to track hand movements. As the meeting droned on, Jack sat quietly, his mind racing. The aliens thought humans were primitive because of their verbal communication. But maybe, just maybe, humans had something these advanced beings didn't understand at all. For the first time since arriving, Jack smiled. He had found a gap in their perfect telepathic world, a way to hide in plain sight. Jack sat in his small quarters on the assembly station, watching a recorded message from Earth. The face of General Kate Rogers, head of Earth's diplomatic corps, looked tired but focused. "We've reviewed your reports, Professor Harmon," she said. "Your observation about their inability to track hand movements is fascinating. Are you certain the aliens can't detect this?" "I've tested it for 3 weeks now," Jack replied to the recording, knowing his answer would take hours to reach Earth. "During neural scans, they map our speech centers perfectly but ignore motor cortex activity related to hands. It's like they have a blind spot." Jack turned off the screen and walked to the window. The rings of Saturn glowed in the distance. He had taught American Sign Language for 15 years before being chosen for this mission. Now that knowledge might be humanity's secret weapon. A soft chime sounded at his door. "Enter," Jack called. A woman in a crisp blue uniform stepped inside. She had dark hair pulled back in a neat bun and carried a small travel case. "Professor Harmon, I'm Olivia Martinez. Earth sent me as your new assistant." Jack's eyes widened. He hadn't expected a response so quickly. "You're the ASL expert." Olivia nodded and glanced around the room. Without speaking, her hands moved in fluid motions. "They told me you found a weakness in their systems," she signed. "Is it safe to talk here?" Jack smiled and signed back. "They don't watch our hands, only listen to our words." "Perfect," Olivia replied with her fingers. Aloud she said, "I've brought the research materials you requested, Professor. The cultural exchange files." For the next hour, they spoke normally about Earth customs and human history while their hands carried on a completely different conversation. Olivia explained she had been a military cryptographer before specializing in nonverbal communication systems. "We need to develop our own modified sign language," Jack signed. "Something with elements from ASL, but unique enough that no one could translate it even if they studied Earth languages." Olivia nodded. "I can help with that. We can incorporate military hand signals too." The next morning, Jack brought Olivia to her first assembly meeting. As they entered the grand chamber, Ambassador Ktorvac of the Zithrians approached them. "Another human," he said with clear disgust. "I see Earth insists on sending more primitive speakers." "This is my assistant, Ms. Martinez," Jack said politely. "She's here to help document Earth's integration into the assembly." Under the table, his fingers moved. "He's the worst one. Thinks we're animals." Olivia's face remained perfectly neutral as her hands replied. "His species controls mining rights in 3 systems. Probably wants Earth's resources." Jack fought to keep his expression blank. He hadn't known that detail about the Zithrians. The meeting began, focusing on a new treaty for mineral extraction rights. Jack noticed several species seemed particularly interested when Earth was mentioned. As Ambassador Ktorvac presented the treaty terms, Jack listened carefully. The proposal would give several alien species access to Earth's rare minerals with minimal compensation. According to the Zithrian, it was a generous offer for a developing world. "Earth appreciates the Assembly's interest," Jack said diplomatically. Meanwhile, his hands moved rapidly. "They're trying to rob us blind." "Classic resource grab," Olivia signed back. "Need more time to study details." Throughout the meeting, Jack and Olivia maintained pleasant expressions while their fingers flew in conversation beneath the table. They discussed treaty loopholes, identified which species seemed trustworthy, and planned their next steps, all while the telepathic aliens remained completely unaware. After 6 hours of debate, the assembly adjourned without finalizing the treaty. As they left the chamber, Jack caught Ktorvac staring at them with suspicion. "The talking primates seem unusually confident today," the Zithrian said to another alien. Jack smiled politely. "We're just good listeners." Beside him, Olivia's fingers moved. Little does he know, we're not just listening anymore. For the first time since arriving in space, Jack felt they might have a chance. 3 weeks passed. Jack and Olivia refined their secret sign language each day, mixing ASL with military signals and adding their own invented gestures. They practiced constantly in their quarters, making sure their movements looked casual to any observer. The assembly votes on the mining treaty in 5 days. Jack signed during breakfast in the station's dining area. Olivia took a sip of her coffee. Her fingers replied, "We need more information on previous treaties. See if other new species got similar deals." "Good idea," Jack signed back. Out loud he said, "The food here is getting better, don't you think?" A tall blue-skinned alien approached their table. This was Ambassador Milo of the Nereids, an amphibious species known for their scientific achievements. "May I join you?" Milo asked, sitting without waiting for an answer. "I find human eating habits fascinating." Jack nodded politely while signing to Olivia. "Watch what you say." Not sure whose side they're on. "Professor Harmon, I understand your world is considering the resource treaty," Milo said. "My people signed a similar agreement when we joined the Assembly 50 years ago." Jack perked up. "Was it beneficial for your planet?" Milo's face changed color slightly, darkening around the edges. "Initially, we thought so. The terms seemed generous at the time." Under the table, Olivia's hands moved. "Ask about long-term effects." "And in the long term?" Jack asked, following her suggestion. Milo looked around before leaning forward. "Let's just say the Zithrians and their allies always benefit more than they promise. Our main continent's resources were depleted within 20 years. Jack kept his face neutral, but his fingers moved rapidly toward Olivia, potential ally. "Seems unhappy with Zithrians." The next day, Jack requested access to the Assembly's archives. Normally, such access was limited for observer species, but Jack argued that understanding past treaties would help Earth better integrate into the galactic community. Surprisingly, Ambassador Milo supported his request, and it was granted. In the archives, Jack and Olivia discovered disturbing patterns. 5 species, led by the Zithrians, had systematically targeted every newly admitted civilization. They would offer seemingly favorable mining treaties, extract valuable resources, and then move on, leaving the planets economically dependent on imported goods. They'd done this 12 times, Olivia signed as they reviewed the records. "Look at the resource depletion rates. It's devastating." Jack's hands replied, "We need allies. Milo might help. Any others?" During the next assembly session, Jack and Olivia observed more carefully. When Ambassador Xorvac spoke about the Earth Treaty, they noticed some species seemed uncomfortable. One crystalline being, a lithari named Counselor Vitrum, actually dimmed its light output, their species equivalent of a frown. After the session, Jack approached the lithari representative. "Counselor Vitrum, I was hoping to learn more about your culture," Jack said pleasantly. The crystal being flickered with multicolored light. "An unusual request, human. Most new species only wish to speak with the dominant coalition." As they talked, Jack sensed an opportunity. He carefully dropped hints about Earth's concerns with the treaty terms. Meanwhile, his hand signed to Olivia, who stood nearby. They're definitely not happy with the Zithrians either. That evening, Jack and Olivia compiled their findings in their quarters. Their fingers flew in silent conversation as they mapped connections between species, identified potential allies, and planned their strategy. "We have 3 days until the vote," Jack signed. "We need proof of their intentions." Olivia nodded, her hands moving confidently. "I think I know how to get it, but it's risky." "What's your plan?" Jack asked with his fingers. Olivia smiled slightly. "We use their greatest weakness against them. They think we're too primitive to be a threat, so they won't guard their secrets from us." Outside their window, Saturn's rings glowed in the darkness as the 2 humans plotted a resistance that no telepathic mind could detect. Olivia's plan was simple but dangerous. The next day, she entered the assembly chamber wearing a maintenance uniform she had modified. The aliens rarely paid attention to human service workers, considering them even less important than the official representatives. Jack attended the pre-treaty meeting as usual, keeping the Zithrians distracted with questions about minor treaty points. Meanwhile, Olivia moved around the edges of the room, pretending to check environmental systems. The human asks many questions for a primitive species, Torvak said with obvious annoyance. We just want to understand the treaty fully, Jack replied politely. His eyes briefly tracked Olivia as she worked her way toward the Zithrian delegation's private meeting room. Olivia slipped inside when no one was looking. The Zithrians, like most assembly species, relied on telepathic security. They didn't bother with cameras or motion sensors, believing their thoughts were the only thing worth protecting. Inside the room, Olivia quickly placed tiny recording devices under the meeting table and near data terminals. These were special Earth devices that the station's systems wouldn't detect. Almost done, she signed to Jack through the doorway when he passed by. 20 minutes later, she rejoined him in the main chamber, giving a subtle thumbs up. Phase 1 was complete. That evening, 5 key members of the Zithrian coalition met in the private room. They had no idea their conversation was being recorded. Jack and Olivia listened from their quarters. Earth has more rare minerals than we expected, said Sorvak's voice. Once we control their mining operations, we'll triple our profits from the last primitive world we harvested. Another voice added, the humans suspect nothing. Their observer asks questions but understands little. We've already placed our technology throughout their solar system. The third voice said, once they sign, we'll control their communication networks, defense systems, everything. Jack and Olivia exchanged looks of shock. Their hands moved rapidly in their secret language. They've already infiltrated Earth's system, Jack signed. This is worse than we thought, Olivia's fingers replied. The recording continued, revealing the coalition's full plan. They would drain Earth's resources, manipulate its economy to create dependency on alien technology, then move on when the planet was no longer profitable. Just like they did to the others, Jack signed grimly. The next day, Jack sought out Ambassador Malo during a meal break. May I join you? Jack asked politely. The blue-skinned alien nodded. Of course, Professor. While they talked about cultural differences, Jack subtly guided the conversation toward the coalition's practices. He watched Malo's reactions carefully. Your planet suffered after your treaty with the Zithrians, Jack said quietly. Malo's skin darkened. What makes you say that? Records show your world's economy declined by 60% in 2 decades after mining began. The alien looked around nervously. We are not supposed to discuss such things with new species. Jack leaned forward. What if Earth could prove the Zithrians are violating assembly laws? Malo's large eyes widened. Under the table, Jack handed the alien a small data chip. This contains evidence. If you find it compelling, maybe we could help each other. That night, Jack met with Olivia in their quarters. Their hands moved quickly as they discussed their progress. Malo took the evidence. Jack signed. Tomorrow we approached the Lithari representative. And the gaseous Vox ambassador, Olivia added with her fingers. Their world was exploited 30 years ago. Jack nodded. With 3 allies plus evidence, we might stop the treaty vote. Outside their window, Earth was visible as a small blue dot in the distance. Jack stared at it, thinking of home and what would happen if they failed. 2 days until the vote. Olivia signed, her face worried. Jack's hands moved with determination. Then we have 2 days to build a coalition of our own. The next morning, Jack received an encoded message from Ambassador Milo requesting a meeting in the station's arboretum. The garden area was designed to provide comfortable environments for multiple species, with sections ranging from steamy swamps to dry deserts. Jack found Milo in the aquatic section, partially submerged in a small pool. The Nereid wasn't alone. Beside the pool stood the crystalline form of Councillor Vitrum, and floating above them was a swirling cloud of purple gas, the Vox representative, Speaker Aerovis. You've been busy, Professor Harmon, Milo said. Jack nodded cautiously. I see you've shared the information. Your evidence is disturbing, Vitrum said, light pulsing through its crystal body. The Zithrians assured us our experiences were unique and unfortunate. Now we see they have a pattern. The gas cloud of Aerovis swirled faster. My world lost 80% of its valuable gases to their harvesting. They left when there was nothing more to take. Jack glanced around to make sure they weren't being observed. Will you help us stop them? The three aliens exchanged looks. Finally, Milo spoke. Yes, but how? The coalition controls 17 votes in the assembly. We have only 4, including Earth. We need more evidence and more allies, Jack said. And I have an idea how to get both. Later, Jack met Olivia in the dining area. While eating, their hands moved in rapid conversation. Our allies agreed. Jack signed. Now for the next step. Olivia nodded. I placed more recording devices in the coalition's private meeting rooms and their personal quarters. Good, Jack replied with his fingers. But we need to teach our allies some basic signs. If we can coordinate during the vote, we might win. That evening, they met secretly with their 3 alien allies in Jack's quarters. The room was crowded with Milo's damp bulk, Vitram's glowing form, and Aerovis's gaseous body filling the upper part of the room. We want to teach you a simple version of our hand language, Jack explained. Hand language. Vitram's light flickered in confusion. Humans communicate with hand movements that your translation systems don't detect, Olivia explained. She demonstrated simple signs: yes, no, wait, now, and speak. Milo's webbed hands struggled with the movements, but he managed the basics. Vitram, with its crystalline appendages, could only manage rough approximations. Aerovis, having no solid form, formed small tendrils of gas that could make simple movements. During the assembly meeting, watch for these signals, Jack explained. When I sign now, each of you should request to speak, one after another. Don't let the Zithrians respond between our statements. When Jack gives this sign, Olivia demonstrated a fist opening to 5 fingers. Activate the evidence screens on your voting panels. They practiced for hours until each ally could recognize the key signals. The next morning, their last day before the vote, Jack met with High Counselor Erix, requesting a procedural change for the treaty session. I wish to make a visual presentation during my statement tomorrow, Jack said. The 6-armed counselor looked surprised. Unusual, but permitted. The assembly rarely uses visual aids since most communication is telepathic. Humans are visual creatures, Jack explained. It helps us understand complex issues. When Jack returned to their quarters, Olivia was waiting with news. The recording devices worked, she signed excitedly. We have Exorvac admitting they've broken 7 different assembly laws. Jack smiled. Perfect. I just got approval for our visual presentation. Their hands moved in rapid conversation as they finalized their plan, aware that the next day would determine Earth's future. Do you think it will work? Olivia signed, her face serious. Jack's fingers replied, it has to. The entire assembly will see the truth tomorrow, and they won't be able to ignore it. As night fell over the station, the 2 humans worked tirelessly, preparing evidence and rehearsing their parts for the confrontation to come. The day of the treaty vote arrived. The assembly chamber was fuller than usual, with representatives from all 27 species present. Jack and Olivia entered together, their faces calm despite their racing hearts. Ambassador Xorvac approached them with a smug expression. Today Earth joins our glorious future, Professor Harmon. Your primitive world will benefit greatly from our guidance. We look forward to a fair partnership, Jack replied politely while his hand signed to Olivia. He has no idea what's coming. High Counselor Erix called the session to order. Today we vote on the Earth Mining Treaty. As is customary, the human observer may make a statement before voting begins. Jack walked to the center of the chamber. Behind him, Olivia moved to a control panel where she had secretly loaded their evidence files the night before. Distinguished representatives, Jack began, Earth is honored to join the Galactic Assembly. This treaty represents an important step in our relationship. As he spoke, Jack's fingers moved slightly at his side, signaling to their allies to be ready. The Zithrians and their coalition watched with bored expressions, clearly expecting a simple acceptance speech. Earth has studied this treaty carefully, Jack continued. We also studied the history of similar agreements with other worlds. Exorvac shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Several coalition members exchanged glances. Jack's hands made a subtle gesture. Immediately, Ambassador Milo raised his webbed hand. Point of information, Counselor, Milo said. The Nira delegation wishes to share relevant historical context about our own mining treaty. Before Exorvac could object, Counselor Vitram's crystalline form lit up. The Lithari also wished to provide context about resource agreements. The gas cloud that was Speaker Aerovis swirled dramatically. The Vox delegation has similar concerns to raise. Thorvac stood abruptly. This is irregular. The treaty vote should proceed without. Jack made another hand signal, and Olivia pressed a button on her control panel. Large screens appeared throughout the chamber, showing recorded conversations between the Zithrian coalition members. Once we control their mining operations, we'll triple our profits from the last primitive world we harvested, came Exorvac's voice from the recording. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. What is this? Demanded High Counselor Erix. Jack spoke clearly over the rising noise. Evidence that the Zithrian coalition has systematically exploited newly admitted worlds in violation of assembly law. The screen showed more recordings and data charts comparing the economic decline of planets after signing treaties with the coalition. We have proof that the Zithrians have already placed unauthorized technology throughout Earth's solar system. Jack continued, gesturing to another screen showing surveillance logs. Thorvac's face darkened with rage. How did you get these recordings? Our meetings are private. Jack smiled slightly. You monitored our words, Ambassador. You never thought to watch our hands. With deliberate movements, Jack demonstrated several sign language gestures. Humans don't just speak with our mouths. We have a whole language you never noticed. The assembly chamber was in chaos now. Species were talking over each other, some demanding explanations, others calling for an investigation. High Counselor Erix raised all 6 arms for silence. These accusations are extremely serious. Ambassador Exorvac, how do you respond? The Zithrian looked around wildly. This is a primitive trick. These recordings must be fake. Jack made another hand sign. Milo, Vitram, and Aerovis each activated their control panels, displaying more evidence collected from their own worlds. We move for an immediate suspension of the treaty vote, Jack said firmly, and a full investigation of all previous agreements with the coalition. High Counselor Erix looked around the chamber, taking in the reactions of the various representatives. Many who had previously supported the coalition now appeared uncertain. The vote is suspended, Erix declared. The Assembly will convene an emergency council to investigate these claims. As Exorvac and his allies protested loudly, Jack caught Olivia's eye across the room. Her hands moved in their private language. We did it. For the first time, the talking primates had outsmarted the most powerful forces in the galaxy. 2 months after the dramatic assembly session, Jack stood at the window of his new office on the station. The view had changed. Earth was no longer a distant blue dot, but took up much of the window as the assembly station had been moved to orbit Earth instead of Saturn. The door chimed and Olivia entered, followed by Ambassador Milo, Counselor Vitram, and a swirling cloud that was Speaker Aerovis. The new council is ready for you, Director Harmon, Olivia said with a smile. Jack still wasn't used to his new title. After the investigation confirmed all their evidence, the Assembly had undergone massive changes. The Zithrian coalition had been stripped of power, with Exorvac and several others facing serious punishments for treaty violations. Jack had been appointed to head the new Diplomatic Oversight Committee, a position no primitive species had ever held before. I never expected things to change so quickly, Jack said as they walked toward the council chamber. The Assembly needed change, Milo replied. For too long, The telepathic species believed they were superior. Vitram's crystalline body sparkled in agreement. They thought communication was only about exchanging thoughts. You showed them it can also be about what is not shared. The new council chamber was smaller than the full assembly hall, but more democratic in layout. Representatives from 12 species sat in a circle, with no seat higher or more prominent than others. Jack took his place between Olivia and Milo. The first item on our agenda, Jack began, is Earth's new membership terms. Over the next hour, they approved a fair resource-sharing agreement that protected Earth's interests while still allowing beneficial trade. When the meeting ended, Jack remained behind with Olivia. "Would you have believed this 2 months ago?" he asked, his hands automatically signing along with his words, a habit they'd kept even though their signing was no longer secret. Olivia smiled. "Never. I expected we'd be lucky just to avoid being exploited." Director Harmon called a voice from the doorway. A young aide stood there. "The first group of students has arrived." Jack nodded. "Thank you. We'll be right there." In a large room nearby, representatives from 15 different species waited. Some looked almost human, others were utterly alien. From crystalline beings to floating gas clouds to creatures with too many limbs to count. "Welcome to the first class of the Galactic Institute of Manual Communication," Jack said. "I'm Professor Harmon, and this is Professor Martinez." The aliens watched with fascination as Jack and Olivia demonstrated basic sign language. Many species struggled with the movements, especially those without hands or similar appendages, but all were eager to learn. "Why is learning this so important?" asked a reptilian being from the back of the room. "Because it offers something telepathic communication doesn't," Jack explained. "Privacy. Security. A way to communicate that can't be monitored or intercepted." After the lesson, Jack and Olivia walked back to the Earth section of the station. Through the windows, they could see ships arriving from all over the galaxy. Many carried diplomats wanting to learn sign language or discuss trade with Earth. "Humanity's greatest weakness became our greatest strength," Olivia said. Jack nodded. "They thought we were primitive because we still talk with our mouths. Now everyone wants to talk with their hands," she replied with a smile. Later that evening, Jack sent a message to General Rogers back on Earth. It contained just a few simple sentences and a short video of him signing a phrase they had created. "Finger talking saved the day." As Jack looked out at Earth glowing blue and green in the viewport, he thought about how strange it was. The aliens had sophisticated technology, telepathic abilities, and advanced civilizations spanning the stars. Yet they had been outsmarted by something as simple as moving fingers. Sometimes the most powerful advantage wasn't the most obvious. Sometimes it was hidden in plain sight, just waiting for someone to notice its potential.